Hello, welcome to Man Matters with Nate and myself. Today we have the huge honor of having Maria Rios on our podcast.
Thank
Welcome
you.
to the podcast.
Welcome. It's pretty interesting. So Derving actually sent a little clip of a Instagram video of you talking about your journey with jiu-jitsu, kind of getting started. It sounds very, very interesting. I love to hear these kind of stories. So I'm very excited for today.
Thanks.
How do you discover Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and what inspired you to start training?
Okay, so when I started training in 2005, a long time ago, but the reason I even went into the gym was because a family friend of ours, my brother Javier, had a friend, Angus, that was training jiu-jitsu. He is still a very dear friend of our families, of my brother's. And he was like, you should come check out jiu-jitsu. I think you'd really like it. And I was like, okay. I didn't really think much of it. And then I went with him to a class and I did like an intro class at Alberto Crane School in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And I was like, yeah, I think I'm really going to like this. And right after that intro class, I signed up for the first 6 months and I just never stopped after that. It was kind of like a fluke. Like my brother's older than me, so his friend was a little bit older, and they he was a bouncer at one of the clubs, and he was like, I really think, your sister should probably start, you know, doing self-defense. And I just thought, whatever, I didn't really think anything of it. And then I went and I was like, I love this. This is amazing. So for me, it was pretty instant. And that's how it started. And then it completely catapulted into like a huge shift in like everything that I was doing in life.
That's cool. What do you think it was that like attracted you to it? Is it just the competition of it or
I think like I had played sports, when I was little, played basketball, I wrestled, I was pretty like active, and at the time that this was all happening, part of the reason, I mean, it wasn't just that, my family was like concerned that I should learn self-defense, but I was getting into a lot of trouble and I was mixed up with like, substance and stuff like that, and like substance use and a lot of alcohol abuse, and just being a total POS, if I'll be completely honest. And I wasn't doing really much with myself. And so it was more of that angle as far as like my family wanting me to do it. So when I started, the allure was just like, not only was it like super awesome, but it was like a whole different vibe. It was a different environment. The feel was different, like even on the first day, the trial class, like I came in, I did the movements that they show the trial class. And then I watched the rest of the class and I was like, just the energy in the gym just felt, it was such a different feeling. It was like, man, I really want to be a part of this. And it felt good to even do the movements on the mat. I was like, I could really get into this. If I start feeling comfortable here, I could really get into this. And I just immediately like fell in love with it. I don't know what it was. It was definitely like the environment. It was like it felt good being there. And I was only there for a couple of hours for one day, and I was like, people were really nice to me and it just felt really good. So I was like, I want to come back and I want to feel this again.
that's really cool? Yeah, I definitely there's a family. There's a family that you get with jiu-jitsu. I feel like that I don't know. I haven't experienced that anywhere else. But
Yeah, it's so special. I feel like, when they say those the jujitsu saves my life, it really does for a lot of people, myself being one of them, because where I was at that point in time in my life, it was just I don't know. I was in a complete downward spiral. And I had been for a very long time. And I was like, never thinking like of something in particular to like save me, if you will. It was just like, it just happened at the right time. I don't know what it was. It was just like, it came across my life at this point in time where I was in like a pit of suffering of my own doing for other things that were going on in my life. And I'm like, man, it really pulled me out of a hole. And it wasn't like I went in there and then boom, everything changed. No, it was much a longer process. It was like I went in that first day and I was like, I feel really good. This feels really nice. I want to learn this. And whatever it was, I can't pinpoint exactly one thing. It was many things, but in that moment, I was just wanting to be involved. I really liked it. I felt differently about it. And I was like, I want to come back, and I started coming back more and more. At first, it was here and there. I had signed up for this membership. So I was like, okay, I paid for this. I should come. Right. And it was here and there at first. And then when I started making friends, and then, there were people that became my friends were like, oh, are you training tomorrow? Or are you training tomorrow? It became this like consistent thing of them
Mm-hmm.
wanting me to be there. And then because I was so involved in this other scene of like partying, and I was struggling to get away from like substance use and smoking cigarettes and drinking and doing all this other horrible shit to my body. I was like, man, I can't really like function correctly in training because I'm all fucked up, excuse me. But I was like, my body just couldn't handle it. So it was like gradually I started like, oh man, I don't want to do this. I don't want to keep, using these things that were like basically tearing my body down. And then I was trying to go to training and it wasn't mixing. It was like so difficult. So it was like, I don't want to, I started like pulling back more and more and more. It was one thing after another. I started using less and smoking cigarettes less and started hanging out less with the people I was around at that time. And I started doing jujitsu more. And then I started doing like the Muay Thai at the gym. It was like I was trading one for another. I became so involved in the gym. I was like there I built my schedule around it. I was like, I gotta change my shifts at the restaurant I was working at so I could train more. And it was like a 180. It was over time, but my life turned completely a 180. It went from like a downward spiral into a hole that was going nowhere to, "Oh, man, I can't really go out tonight because I want to go make it to open mat tomorrow morning." And I was like, this is like, I didn't even think about it. And then I realized that, and I was like, I haven't gone out and partied in a real long time, or haven't smoked in forever. Like it was all these different things that I just kind of let go because I wanted to do better. I wanted to do better in class. I didn't want to suck as much. And I was like, well, you all know, like you're training in the first year that you're there, you're just getting destroyed. But it's 10 times worse when you're like all, twisted on smoking cigarettes and substance abuse and like alcohol, and like you just can't make it through. It feels 20 million times worse. So,
It's trying to like swim in a heavy in a with heavy equipment in the deep side of the pool. Where you just carry it, we can just let it
oh
on
my
the
God,
on
you're
the shore.
drowning. It's awful. But yeah, that's pretty much where it all came around for me. It was like this family friend of mine, Angus, it was like a brother to me, another brother, um, was like, yeah, you should come check this out. And, me not really taking it serious. And then it was just like this whole new life experience. And then it was one thing after another that just kept, even like people were like, oh, you should try competing. And I was like, huh, okay, maybe I will. And it was always this like great team effort, like it wasn't like you should go and you should do this by yourself. It was like, no, we're all going to this tournament let's all like carpool and we'll go, we'll get a hotel. Everybody will split rooms and we'll all go together. And it was like, and then we were all training together for these competitions. So people were grinding together and, nobody wanted to go out and party because then your training was affected by it. So it was like all these cool little things just started happening. And I was like, I love this way more than I love that. Like, I just was so much more rewarding and it felt so much better than getting high or getting fucked up on the weekend. It just felt a million times better. It was like, the euphoric feeling was like so higher than I could ever give if I was using. It was like, this was so much better. And like I said, it just did a 180 for me. It was like, and it kept going and it never stopped. You know what I mean? Like one challenge would come up and then, like for instance, competing, one thing would come up. Like my first tournament I ever did was I think a grappler's quest in Las Vegas or Colorado or something like that. I was a white belt, been training for like 4 months. Then I got smoked. And I was like, man, what happened? So then it was like, instead of like going down another spiral, which would happen with most of my mishaps in life, right? I was like in the gym, like watching video, like trying to figure out where I messed up and how I could get better. And it just caused me to do more training without even thinking, oh, let's drill this. And then you're surrounded by all these other people that want you to do better, but they want to do better too. So they're there working with you. It was like this amazing domino effect that I didn't even expect to happen. And it just plucked me right out of one life and put me right in another one that was just like way better for me, like mentally, physically, emotionally. I'm thank God every day that happened.
When you say probably the idle time that you had before, that you use it for partying and drinking, you probably found it in a new challenge. In that challenge itself, you like give you some like the dopamine hits that you were looking for in other extracurricular activities that you're like in a new sport now, and you're like getting better. I see you improvement. That's how you feel like you're feeling like every new move that you do, like, oh, one more hit, one more hit. It's like getting better and better.
Yep.
Like you just never ending, just learning, getting better.
Right.
Those hits
Right.
you keep coming.
And you're still like, even when you reach so I just recently got my black belt in May and I'm like, I'm still learning. It's not like it all ends there. It's like, no way. I still have so much to learn. I still see people doing amazing things on the mat that I'm like, oh my God, teach me this or show me how I can apply it to what I'm doing, So it's like this euphoric feeling. And one thing that I got from training that I never got from anything else, no drug I've ever used in my life, was this feeling of being present. Like, when you're training, even when you're sparring, like you could be doing MMA, but like, especially in jujitsu, like I noticed that when I was rolling and I was in class, there was nowhere else I was. Does that make sense? So like my mind was never somewhere else. It was always there in that moment. It was like the most present I could ever be. It was like, it's going to sound silly, but it was like so enlightening. I was like, man, I am like here. I am right here in the now. I'm not anywhere else. Like, I don't even know what's going on in the world right now. I just know that I'm trying to survive this round. I'm trying to think my way out of it and what I'm supposed to do. It was such a present feeling that I'd never felt before. I think I was always, you know, in life when I was using and stuff like that, I was always trying to find that like real feeling. Like you just want to feel like alive in some sort of way, or maybe dead. I don't know. But when you are enrolling and sparring in those moments, you're just so present. It's like you don't have a second to think about really anything else, or else you're gonna get choked. You're getting arm barred, or you're just getting smashed. I mean, I'm sure you guys know, like through training, like when you're in the beginning stages of it, you're just getting destroyed all,
Oh,
especially
yeah.
if you don't have any like prior like wrestling or judo or whatever martial art training. You're just like surviving, and it's like such a real moment. You can't be, for me anyway, I can't speak for everyone, but for me, I was such in the moment. It felt so good. I was like, nothing can beat this. And then
You
after, when you're just like sitting there, like, I just survived that. What?
Jiu-Jitsu will help you value time because whenever you're rolling and you get mobbed and you look at the clock, it's only been 10 seconds and you have a whole round left.
Right? Or you feel like you've been rolling your ass off and you're like, you're just totally smoked. And you're like, oh my God, it's been literally 30 seconds. Are you serious? I feel like I've been sprinting for 2 minutes.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things in perspective. Your body in perspective, your mind in perspective, and time all at the same time.
You know,
It's
it's
beautiful.
pretty amazing.
Definitely can agree with you on the whole, it forces you to be present thing. I mean, there's been, I could be worried about the future. I can be worried about anything, but then you get into class and it's kind of nice because it's like the one thing that really forces you to be only in the present, only where you're at. Because if you're not, you're getting smashed.
Right.
Like if you're
I mean,
worried about something else, you're
absolutely. It
done.
only takes like, let's say you leave that moment for a second. It only takes a second of you
Hmm.
get smashed to get right back in it. And you're like, oh, wow, I kind of for, spaced out there for a second. And then now you're like, what the hell? How did I get taken down? I don't even know what happened just now. And then you're right back in it. It like
Hmm.
pulls you right back to that present time, which is, it's pretty amazing because so many people, we work. I mean, if you are looking in that spiritual sense, to meditate and be present and be in the moment at all times, just go to jujitsu. You start there.
You'll find higher being within 30 seconds. We'll get you there.
Or
Right.
lower some days.
You wake up with your legs shaking, somebody shaking your leg.
Right.
But what advice would you give somebody that's struggling with similar challenges, maybe consider jiu-jitsu martial arts as
Oh
an
my
outlet?
gosh. I would say to take it one day at a time. Like don't try to look at this. I mean, have the big picture in mind, but don't worry about it. Just take it one day at a time, one class at a time, and some days are going to be harder than others. But if we can just conquer that one day and show up the next day, just one day, just one more day, like some days were hard as hell, like to show up to class, but I was like, oh, I'll just show up today, and then I showed up and I was like, thank God I came today. It's like, if you can just come or train or be there, tell yourself one more day, especially on the days you're struggling, man, I'll just give it one more day, and show up another day and another day. And before you know it, you've been training a whole year, and all these other things that you thought could never happen, like could never not be in your life, they're so long gone. So that's what I would say. Just take it one day at a time and keep showing up.
And you say you do MMA, right?
Yes, I did
Like
move.
what led you to transition like from jiu-jitsu to MMA?
Oh, that was such a turning point for me. So like I did jujitsu first, and then I had done like some Muay Thai classes and some cardio kickboxing classes, but I never really took it like seriously, I guess. I liked sparring and I liked doing the class, but never really was like, "I'll take a fight." In 2010, I was training under Jay Jack and Amanda Buckner in Portland, Maine. And I don't know if you guys know who they are, but like Amanda Buckner at the time that she was fighting, she was like, I think she was, I think, third in the world at 135. This was like when MMA for women wasn't like a thing, you know, the old school MMA fighters. And so I was training under them, and
Oh, that's Jack. He's over the academy, right?
yeah, yes.
I'm
Yep.
from Maine, so
My
I've
God. Okay.
somewhat familiar.
Yeah, I trained there for like 4 years.
Very cool.
But in 2010, I'll never forget. I was watching some of the guys prep for some MMA fights that they were doing, and I was on the treadmill and I was running, and you know, they're doing the rounds on the mat, and Jay had come up to me and was like, "Have you ever thought about fighting before?" And I was all, and I gave him some bullshit excuse. I was like, "Well, you know, it never really presented itself, and I don't know." And he was like, he just looked at me like he knew I was like full of shit. And he's like, "Well, if you've thought about it and you've never done it because you're scared, then you should do it." And he's like, "But if you thought about it and you genuinely don't want to do it, then don't fucking do it." He's like, "You need to go home and think about that. Because if you're over here watching and you're just not doing it because you're afraid, then you need to get your ass out here and we need to get you a fight." And I was like, "Okay." So I did. I went home and I was like, "Man, he totally called me out. He knew it. He just knew. He read right through me." So the next day I came back to the gym and I was like, "Yeah, I want to do a fight. I have to now." He fucking called me out. So that's where it started, because he was like, you want to do it. You're just being a chicken shit." And I was like, "Okay, I guess you're right."
I guess we're fighting.
So I was like, "Fuck it, let's do it." And they prepared me for my first 4 fights, my first 4 amateur fights, which was probably the most amazing thing I've ever experienced. I was like, "Wow." Even though it was such it was a very, it was a hard like turn for me, because I did sport jujitsu. I was like pulling guard and stuff like that. And then, you know, you're so used to doing those things. So like when I started sparring for MMA, and there were a couple times like during training, like I just would get pummeled because I'm like trying to play my guard game and I'm just getting the shit beat out of me. And Jay would just be like, "Go into the bathroom, and if you need a fucking cry, get yourself together and come back out here, finish the round." And I'd be like, "Okay," you know, like, and you would, because I feel like MMA just taps into a much more like emotional, physical thing, because like you're pushing yourself to a place physically that you get like emotional, if that makes sense. Like in jujitsu, I had pushed myself really hard, and I had, you know, prepped for my competitions with conditioning and all these things, but I never did a camp like an MMA camp where I was like, why am I doing this? Like you're just like you get broken physically to the point where you, like for me, I mean not everybody, but for me it was like it broke me emotionally. That's how physically broken and pushed I was, which was great, right? I was pushing myself past all these physical limits that I thought that I had. Like I never thought like, "Oh, like, you know, I'm gonna push myself past this and keep fighting." No, I never ever thought that. But in those fight camps, he made that happen. And then I was like, "Holy shit, I can actually do this." And there's something in you that like it's emotional, because you're like, "I can fucking do this," and you keep going. And for me, it was emotional. And so, yeah, but that's where it all started. And after that, I was just like, "I got to keep doing this. I love this."
We say make you dig deep in order to go forward in MMA. Make it like it's more like primal, the sport itself of MMA.
Uh, I think so. Yeah. And I think we all have like, you have to have the, well, I feel like most people have that, right? And like if you have the right people in your corner, they can kind of like teach you how to dig it out. I knew I was like a scrappy jiu-jitsu fighter. Like I did that in most of my matches, but obviously the game changes when you're getting punched and kicked in the head and all this other stuff, and if you've ever had somebody like punch you repeatedly while you're on the ground, it's like it's overwhelming in a way that like you've never been smothered like that in jiu-jitsu before and had that same feeling. So you have to push yourself to a like mentally, I feel like it's the mental push because your body will do it. Your body can go past that. But like mentally, you have to get to a place to be like fight out of that wanting to quit space because
Trying to
your
like
body's
break
already
that
tired.
governor,
Huh?
kind of break that governor that your brain
Yeah,
has, because
absolutely.
your body be able to do it. Is that governor stopping you from getting there?
And like I said, your body does it, but your head's like, okay, this is enough. This sucks enough. Let's stop. And then whatever your mind says, your body follows. So if you can train your head to be like first, like, no, we're not quitting. We're not going to stop. And then your body follows suit. So it's like those training camps is where I learned to push past my physical like faults, like where my body was like just wanting to stop, you know, just going from like sparring to flipping tires to hitting pads back to like, doing this like round of just torture. Yeah, because the fight's like that, it's so crazy because sometimes I've been in MMA fights where it's like that. It's like a sprint to like this grinding feeling up against the cage, back to a sprint to like it's just like this roller coaster, and you never know what it's gonna be. But in that time in when I first started, I mean, Jay's just an amazing. Jay and Mandy are just amazing coaches, and they just knew how to get you there. They knew how to get you there physically for sure, but mentally, they were like just they just knew what to say and how to push you there, which I'd never experienced. And I'm like, I'm so grateful and thankful for that because now, I'm older now and now I can still push past. Like I'm still in training and rolling with people that are like 20 years younger than me. And I'm like, and I still got it. Like, because you get still like, you take that with you. You know how to like push past like your physical limits to keep going and finish the rounds and finish the conditioning part and not stop.
I
Yeah,
think
that's
that
what.
is kind of a, sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that is kind of an interesting thing about martial arts in general, is that even in your adult life, having somebody there who calls you out and keeps pushing you past what you're normally used to.
Yeah.
Because it seems like you grow up and you kind of get out of that. It's like your boss at work isn't really trying to do that. He's just getting his paycheck or whatever. But you got your coach at like jiu-jitsu or for MMA. They see through your excuses, and
Absolutely.
they're not here to listen to you make excuses. So they're going to keep pushing you. So I think that is it's interesting. I think it's helpful, honestly, in adult life to have somebody still doing that.
Oh my God, so much. Like, I'll never forget, like, him telling me, like, nobody gives a shit if you're tired. Not one person. Your opponent doesn't give a fuck if you're tired. They're going to come after you and eat you alive. So, too bad. And now, like, I think about that and I'm like, I carry that same mentality into life. Like, nobody cares if I'm tired in the morning and I still have to get up, take care of my kid and go to work and do all these things to the best of my ability. Not one single person gives two craps. If you're tired, you just got to go through it and do the best that you can and basically fight your hardest, right? So I think that mentality kind of stuck with me and I apply it to other things that I'm doing in life that maybe I'm struggling with. And I'm like, you try to like maybe feel a little bit sorry for yourself and be like,
Mhm.
oh man, I guess I don't have to push that hard. And then you're like, no, you do. Nobody cares. Like, nobody cares. So just,
Also say like whenever you said like you're going against like younger opponents, like you still like be able to push through. The one thing we talked about before was like there's like certain things like physical stamina, like or like mental stamina, but also emotional endurance as well. That you like, as you get older, you mature, and you like to go through certain things that you like be able to get like certain stage. Like, oh, in this stage, like, it's gonna be like really tough. You've been there before. You know what how to adjust to certain like stages. While all the people haven't been able to like handle those kind of situations.
like adjusting as you get older. So I feel like when the benefits of like what I did when I was younger, I can apply now, which helps me push through some of the rounds or some just things that I'm doing that are difficult physically or mentally, right? But also now that I'm older, more mature, I pay attention better to what benefits me the most. So like I don't before when you're training and you're like you're able to maybe train 5-6 days a week and you're going to the gym or you're doing all these things and your body can push through all of it, but is it necessary and is it beneficial? So now I look at things and I'm like, is this benefiting me physically and my jujitsu, or is this just gonna like maybe potentially get me hurt or injured? Like before you just want to train, so you'll just train with whoever whenever. And like now I have like little injuries and, aches and pains. And I'm like, man, if I would have just paid attention more to like my body and like, you know, instead of wanting to like do every single round like mindlessly, I wouldn't be as like injured in the way that I am. So now I train differently. So like I have days where I can go really, really hard and I push the pace to my max. And then on the other days, I taper it. And those days are just as important because I'm doing lots of drilling and I'm not going like 110% like I am on the other days. Maybe I'm doing like 75, maybe I'm doing 50, or maybe I'm doing 80, depending on how my body feels. And now that I'm older, if there are certain people in the gym that I'm like, I know it's gonna require me to exert myself to a point where I'm like, "Oh, I could probably get hurt doing that," I just won't do it. I'll be like, sorry, like you're about 60 pounds heavier than me, and I'm physically not in like my energy level is not where it should be to roll with someone like you or spar with someone like you, because it's going to take a lot more of my physical energy and I probably get hurt. So I'm not going to do it. So that's one thing that when before I would have just done it, and then I'd have been like, oh my God, my back hurts and I can't move for like 2 days or whatever. My knees hurt, or your elbows hurt or whatever is like aching. And then you can't go to the gym the next day because you're all jacked up. So in that sense, I feel more mature where I'm like, I try to look. And also like they're training too. So if I'm going to roll with somebody and I'm only at 50% and they're like good to go, I'm like, I'm going to be like a trash roll for you, man. You're not going to get much out of it. You're not learning. I'm not learning. So I don't see the point. So like in that sense, I try to train smarter each time I'm in the gym and see what's benefiting me the most so I don't get hurt. So my body's good to go on the days that I want to train the harder days. So I can push harder for those days. I think balance is like so important now that I'm older. I'm like, especially with strength training, like I didn't really take it that serious when I was younger, but now I do. And I see the value in that and like mobility training. So I take that really seriously, and it's helped keep me healthy on the mat and in sparring and stuff like that.
Your joints will thank you.
Yeah, for sure. 100%.
You said that you recently were promoted to black belt. Congratulations.
Thank you.
But how do you feel when you receive your black belt, and how does that symbolize to you, like, from your humble beginnings to now?
My dedication, it shows me that, I just never gave up. I never gave up on something that made such a huge impact in my life. Yeah, jujitsu is like an amazing sport and it's so much fun, but the environment and community that it involved me in changed my life forever. And even though I've been like the roller coaster never slowed down, right? It's been ups and downs since then, since I started, and good things have happened and bad things have happened in my life, my personal life, but that has always been consistent. And I always knew like it was the one thing that I stayed consistent with, that I stayed dedicated with because of all the wonderful positive things that it brought to my life. And I knew that like no matter what else was going on, I could always rely on this, right? I could always come back to this to like recenter myself, no matter what chaotic thing was going on in my personal life. And it just represents to me like dedication and consistency, which was something I had struggled with before, like taking care of myself was hard for me before, you know, putting myself first. So now I'm like, I did it. I did this thing that not a lot of people have done. But for me, it was like huge. I was like, oh my God, I dedicated this to myself. I did this. I did this. Nobody else did this. Me. So that's what it represents to me. And it's such also like a great representation of, like I said, consistency and dedication that I can show as an example for my daughter. Like, hey, no matter what's going on, you apply yourself and you stay dedicated and consistent, you can achieve the things that you want to achieve, no matter how long it takes you. If you have those two things, you can accomplish them.
For sure. I mean, that's got to be a crazy feeling. I remember getting my purple belt, especially as I'm at purple belt now. It seemed so surreal because, like, the first few gyms I went to, there was almost no purple belts, and whenever one showed up, they would just absolutely annihilate me. And it's really crazy to see. It's like, wow, I am making progress. I am getting better. Like I don't know, that it really is. That was shocking to me. I can only imagine the black belt. That's so cool.
It's like still kind of an unreal feeling, as I still feel like I'm still learning so much, which is amazing. I love it. I never thought that like you get your black belt and you stop learning it. And that's not like, I never had that thought process, but it's so, like you said, surreal, but in a way where it's like, man, this is just the like starting point again. It's like it's like you're restarting, except for now you kind of know what to do.
Mhm.
Because you understand. I feel like the more I understand jujitsu, the more I have to learn. Because it's like there's all these different rabbit holes you can go down for each thing. And because you understand, let's just say like an armbar, you understand how to apply an armbar and you apply it well as a black belt. And now there's a whole new way to apply it in all these other different positions. And you're like, snap, like I never thought of that. Like I can get it here, 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 and here, and here. And I can apply it this way and this way and this way and this way. And you just see it more. It's like all these other doors open. So it's such an amazing feeling. I'm like, I love it. Even though it's like kind of scary, but it's kind of awesome. You're like, oh no, because now when you compete, you go to the big tournaments, and you're like, I could go up against a black belt that's been a black belt for 20 years, and I just got my black belt. So then you really feel like a white belt again.
Feels like you're like going to the like a Mount Olympus, and you see the rest of the other gods in there. You're like, oh, here you go. It's
Exactly.
like so much knowledge to learn. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and it just, like I said, it's like a rabbit hole. It keeps going. Literally, it keeps going. You'll see so many different ways to like apply one move from so many, like, couple different people. You're just like, what? I didn't realize you could do it that way. And then the game is just evolving. Jiu-jitsu is evolving as a sport. People are just, they're the game is just continuously something you can learn. I mean, like I said, there's always something that's different and changing, or somebody makes up some weird way to do I don't know, some choke, and you're just like, what the hell? That's kind of cool. I can see myself doing that. And then you want to learn that. And that's one of the cooler parts about training.
Yeah, if any sport had a multiverse, this would be the one.
Yeah,
Jiu-jitsu
for sure.
multiverse. Usually, like as a parent, like how do you balance like between having time between like being a mother, trade, and
Well, when she was younger, it was a little bit, it was harder when my daughter was younger, because, you know, they require a lot more attention. But she's literally been with me since she was pretty much born. She's always been with me on the mat. So, like, when I would go to training, I would bring her with me in the, um, I just would, I would train, and I would put her on the side in her car seat. And then if she needed me, you know, for the most part, you know, she would be pretty good. And then, babies cry, and then you need to breastfeed them and change their diaper, and then they don't want to be in the car seat anymore. So at first, in the beginning, it was harder because it only allowed me like pockets of training. I could go to the gym and, you know, get a couple rounds in, and then she was like, nope, nope, not having it. And so, but the cool thing was that she was with me. So she was used to like being in the environment. She was used to the noises. She was used to like the, people training and that loud, people sparring and the sounds that it makes. It never like, scared her. She could fall asleep with the loud music and all these things. But, and also she was seeing me in the environment, so that was normal for her. Literally since, I think I started after, I had her like maybe when she was 3 months old, I started back training. So I gradually would just, I did what I could. And at first I was always like, man, she's gonna start crying, and like everyone's gonna be annoyed, and because she's a baby and all this stuff. And then when I would take her to practice, everyone was like, like, my training partners were like, nobody gives a shit, dude. Babies cry, like, who cares? She's just come train. So I did. I would come, and each time got a little bit easier. And then, you know, when they're like used to being there, you can kind of like, I used to set up like a corner of the mat and put like the kick shield around her, so, like, because she didn't know how to walk, and she was barely crawling at the time. And so she just had like her little barricade, and then sometimes bringing the pack and play was easy, just throwing that. She didn't like that very much, though. She was like wanting to be all over the mat. So that didn't last but a couple of, rounds or whatever. And she'd want to be out and about. And that's where she was fine. She was fine. When she was out and about roaming around on the mat, she wasn't like fussing. But I think that was like the harder times, I guess, for me is just, but I was so glad. Like, I just wanted to be in the gym. I didn't even care. I was like, sucks. I can't really spar. I can't really, do all these things, but at least I'm here in the environment, which made me feel great. And then, as she gradually got older, I could involve her and she could do class or like now she does jiu-jitsu and judo, and so, and now it's easy, she just comes and she can watch me train and hang out and then she does her classes and stuff. But in the beginning, I would say that was the hardest part was like juggling that. And now that she's older, it's like we have something that we in common that we share, you know? And so that's how we can spend time together or share something together as mom and daughter connection. You know, we we have this like thing that we both do and we can share that with one another. That makes sense. And now I mean when she was little like, you know, you're pretty much doing everything and they're with you all the time. So they don't really like have a say in what's going on because they're babies. But now that she's older, it's like, Mom, can we do this thing on the weekend? And she's older, so I focus more on her. Like we train together during the week, or like she does her classes, I do my classes, and the weekends are for us. Maybe we'll go to an open mat, maybe, but I don't like. I'm not like dead set on these things, if that makes sense. It's like we go to festivals all the time. We'll go on mommy daughter dates and you know do certain things like that. So now it's like then it's harder to train. But now like when she was little, it was harder to train, but we were still together. Now it's easier to train. I just spend more time, free time. Like if I have free time, I'm not at the gym. I'm usually with her doing whatever, we want to do, whatever it is. And then sometimes we'll go to the gym, but it's not like I'm like, he's training on Wednesday and I didn't get to go. And I'm like, I'm not in that same mindset because it's more fun to hang out with her. And I mean, of course, I'm like preparing for something. Then I'm like, hey, like, you have to understand mommy's preparing for a competition and, I need to get ready. And she understands now. She's capable of understanding, like, oh, yeah, I don't want my mom to lose. So she needs to go do this. So, yeah. And I always tell the ladies that, like, if they're starting back into jujitsu or maybe they want to do jujitsu, moms, I'm like, you can always come to my class because I will literally hold your baby and teach class at the same time. I used to do it all the time with my daughter. You don't have any excuse. But also, like, if they knowing like other moms, I'm like, I'm a mom, so I understand how that is. Like, if you have to bring your baby and put them in the stroller and you can only do the warm ups, who cares? Like, you're still here, you're still doing what you can, and you can watch the rest of the class or you can bring your kid on the mat. Like, I don't know if all gyms are like that, but I certainly am because I understand what that feels like and to be in an environment where other people are understanding. Like I said, like when I first started and I was like, oh my God, she's going to be crying and people are going to be all annoyed because they're sparring and there's a baby crying. And then I got to the gym and everyone was like, dude, what? Like, nobody cares. Like, everyone knows babies cry. Like, no big deal. You're just crazy. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm like, I'm sure these other women probably feel like that when they're like, oh my God, I don't want to be a burden or an inconvenience. And it's like, no, you're not. Nobody cares. Just train and, you know, be on the mat as much as you can and get your kid used to it. Like, oh my God, I'm so thankful now because now my daughter literally could, I mean, the house could be on fire and she'd probably sleep through it. You know, she sleeps like that well through loud noises. So, and she's, like I said, she's been with me since like day one. Even when I was teaching and I was pregnant, like she's literally been with me since she was a baby, in the womb and out of the womb, as I was teaching class and training. So I think that's a great place for people to bring their kids anyway, in my opinion.
And what lessons do you hope to pass to your daughter about resilience, discipline, and overcoming adversity?
I hope to pass to her a level of self-worth, and that knowing that like she's worth it, right? And confidence through that, like knowing that if she knows she's worth it, then she'll have confidence, and the ability to overcome. That's what I want to pass to her. And in training, like now, like I said, she does judo and jujitsu, and sometimes it's hard for her, to go up against the bigger kids. She gets smashed or she gets thrown really hard, and I'm like, that's okay. Like, just push through that, because that's life. Like, you're going to get smashed and get thrown on your ass a couple times, and it's going to hurt, and you have to push through it. You have to take a deep breath and get up and do it again and again and again. And I feel like if she knows that, like, the confidence and knowing that, like, her worth will help her push through those things. Like, if she doesn't have that confidence or self-worth, then she'll give up when it gets hard. And I think, like, now, if I can do it and she can see it, then she'll definitely do it, is my thought process. Like, if I get kicked down, which I have, and get back up and I push through it and we make it happen, then she can only do that, right? Because I'm showing her that that's what we do. We don't stop when it's hard, and we don't quit when it's hard. We might slow down for sure, but we don't stop. We don't quit. That's like honestly, like my ultimate goal is just to, hopefully, in that situation anyway, is to teach her those things. And hopefully, like, she absorbs knowing that, like, she's definitely worth it, whatever it is, and whatever she's chasing after, definitely worth it. And just having that, like, confidence and knowing that she can do it. I feel like if she has those two things, like, everything will kind of ricochet off of it, like the resilience, all these other things that will benefit if she has those two things, or come out of it if she has those two things. Just like knowing it, not like believing it, but like knowing those things. I am confident and I am worth it. Boom. She can set sail and be good.
Definitely, I feel like you're being a very good example of that. I mean, being back in the gym 3 months after having a kid, that's crazy. But no, that's definitely a picture of somebody who's, gets back up and keeps going. That's definitely really cool.
Well, I do know that, like, I mean, they say it all the time, kids, they don't, what is the saying? They do what they see, not what they're told.
Mhm.
So, like, even though I say a lot of stuff to her, I have to be the example. Like, I can't be some shitbag that's like, don't do this, and then I'm over there doing it. Like, what the fuck? Like, no, then she's gonna be like, well, you do it, so what the hell, So I just think, like, I have to 100%, which is hard too, as an adult. All the shit that's happened to me, I'm like, well, I gotta believe in my own self. I have to have confidence in my own self. And I have to know that I'm worth it. Like, I can't be stuck in all these stupid situations that I was allowing myself to be stuck in. Like before, can't do that because now this person sees and they don't. I mean, like I said, you could say till you're blue in the face, like, don't let people treat you bad. Don't let people do this to you. But if you're allowing people to do that to you, then they're like, that's what they learn. So it's like, well, you gotta live it in order for the other people around you, especially your kids, to even replicate that. So that's like having her not only is like I have to be the example for her, but it's like, well, you have to get your shit together and pull it together for yourself. Because if you can't do it for your own self, you can't do it for her. That's for dang sure.
Indeed, just a good example, like to give like the kids, because certain things that's hard for us to teach as parents, because there's some hard lessons in life that we cannot teach them, that life have to teach them. Maybe they'll be suffering to certain those things like discipline and like those things. Like we just have to learn how to like push through those walls at times.
Yeah.
Do you have like in life like do you have like mentors and teammates and family members that have been like particular supporters or influentials that have been able to help you that way along the way?
Definitely. My family has always been rooting for me. Um, my brothers and my sisters and my mom and dad, even though like they didn't really enjoy watching me fight, I guess. Well, my parents anyway, they were always supportive. My siblings were always behind me. They didn't, they rooted for me, they cheered me on, they were always behind me. Just my biggest cheerleaders, right? They always like had my back. Um, and I've definitely had many people throughout my training and all the different places I've trained that just made a huge difference in my life. Like Jack, and Amanda at the academy, like just huge impact on the way that I fight, the way my mentality, the way that I teach now, like just huge impact there. Some of my other coaches, like, excuse me, that just showed me, I don't know, they're wanting for me to do well, just had a huge impact on me, unlike a way that they could never understand. So, like, I want to replicate that for people. When I see people that are dedicated, or even people that maybe they're not dedicated right now, but you see something, you see it in them. Like, you see, maybe they're going through some shit in life or whatever it is. You don't know what it is exactly, but you know that they have a potential, they have something, and you could just reach that, like, and change their life. Or maybe just, whatever it is to help them, like, guide them back to the gym, like so many people had done for me. You know, they guided me back and helped me along the way, or um, you know, said things to me that just like changed my whole thought process. Um, but I would say, like, for the most part, my family and my coaches, Jay and Mandy, oh my God, there's quite a few people that I would say huge supporters of me throughout the years that I've trained. The ones that have always been there, no matter what, and are still to this day, are like my brothers and my sister, my mom, and my dad.
You said like some people that you say some like certain things in them. Like what words of encouragement would you give for other women, like especially single mothers, who feel like they have obstacle holding back?
I would say that kind of the similar, what I would say to somebody who is struggling with substance is just to take it one day at a time and keep showing up. And because you do that, you will build friends and community. You know the saying, like, it takes a village to raise a child or whatever. That's your village. Like, you come to the jiu-jitsu school. I'm not saying like they're gonna help you raise your kid, but they present like an environment that's healthy. You know, it's healthy for you to be around, and it's healthy for your kid to be around. And even if you don't, you can't train every day or whatever, you can still go and be present in this community that's good for you and good for your kid. And if you can't see it for yourself, see it for your kid, right? See it for them, because it is hard sometimes when you're a single parent to see the things for you. You're kind of like, you put yourself on the back burner all the time because you're so worried. You're always worried about your kid and, am I doing a good job? Or I can't do this for myself because it'll take away from them. But you do have to understand that you have to take care of your own self in order. If you don't flourish, they don't flourish. So it's like, if you're stuck in a rut, like, that's going to affect your kid. So if you can just bring yourself, I would say, to show up and try to be consistent as many times as you can, that would help, because through that little bit of consistency, you're going to build a community. You're going to make friends. You're going to build your own self up, and your kid is going to make friends. Or if they're like very, very young, they'll be able to be in an environment that's like healthy and positive for them. That energy is intoxicating. You know what I mean? Like, feeling that positive vibe, positive energy at the gym. Mind you, not all gyms are like that, of course. Like, some gyms are, I've been to gyms where I'm like, I don't really want to train here. But for the most part of all the gyms I've been to, I've had like a really great experience, and the people were great. And those are the kind of places you want to bring your family, because that affects them in a positive way. So I would just say, show up. And it's not an inconvenience to anyone or a burden. Even if you can only train once a week, it's better than nothing. And you're getting so much more out of it.
Yeah, how do you wish yourself for like a role like as an inspiration mentor for other women?
What's that?
How do you envision yourself as a role model, like inspiration or mentor for the single parents or parents or in martial arts?
I feel like maybe I'm just an example of that it can be done. That there's not really, there are obstacles, but there's no excuses. It's possible. It's all possible. And it may be, and at any age, really. There's not really, like I said, there will be obstacles, but there's no excuses, because you can get it done. If I'm doing it, you certainly could do it. And just because I've been doing it longer doesn't mean anything. I just started doing judo classes. I'm a white belt. So it doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? You can start at any time, any age. You just have to show up and go slow if you have to. Who cares? There's no guideline on how fast you have to achieve anything. You can just show up, and if it takes you 4 years to get your blue belt, who cares? Nobody cares. Everyone's going to be happy that you're just there doing something, and you should be too. So I feel like if I can be at least that example for single parents or women in general, like, your age doesn't mean anything. Though, even if you were completely out of shape, hadn't, exercised in 10 years, you could come to jujitsu and start from the beginning, and you would go slow. It's not like you would go into a class and then start rolling 7 rounds straight. No, you would start slow and you would gradually build yourself to a point where you could do that. So, yeah, that's what I would say. My hope is to show people that if your age or, your physical abilities at this time in your life, they don't matter. You can still do it. You can adjust any movement that you're doing on the mats. You can adjust it to your physical capabilities until you can do it however it's taught. It's totally, everything is adjustable and you can take your time and build yourself up. It's all possible. Just have to show up.
Yeah, that's something we've talked about in the past. Is can be really easy to get caught up comparing yourself to other people's progress, and you get you get teenagers coming in and injuries don't matter to them. They bounce right back. They can train all the time. It's like they don't have responsibilities. It's easy to get caught up comparing yourself to those people, but really it doesn't matter. It just keep showing up, and you'll make your progress. That's really the important part.
Absolutely. Like I always think too, I'm like, man, I'm not doing bad for somebody my age with, what's gone on in my life. Like you're absolutely right. You cannot compare yourself to anyone else's progress or physical abilities or even like coordination ability. Like some people are they get it and they're able to, move their body. They understand, move your left hand here and they get it, right? They move their left hand. But other people are kind of uncoordinated. Maybe they just never, I don't know, never played a sport in their life. Who cares? It just takes you a little bit longer. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like, I wish more people like could see that, like, and just know that like progress is progress, no matter how small it is. It's still progress. And you just showing up is the first step of your progress. It's all possible. Like, if I could just, that's something I want. Like, I wish I could just like have everybody understand right off the bat. But I mean, obviously that takes time, and not everybody does. But that's the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Progress is not linear. Somewhere along the line, as long as you keep making life savings of something, just keep putting on, putting it. Eventually, you'll be able to get your returns. Just keep
Yep,
putting chip at
exactly.
it.
That's a good analogy for it.
Thank you very much for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me.
It's been great. Yeah,
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
it's great to hear what you have to say.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have anything to promote?
What's that?
Do you have anything to promote?
To promote?
Yeah, like your Instagram and your.
My Instagram is kind of funny. It's Unicorn Zombie Slayer without the ER, just the R at the end. Yeah, funny.
Yeah.
That's a solid handle
Yeah,
right there.
Yeah.
Unicorn Zombie Slayer. Unicorn because my daughter loves unicorns. Zombies because I've always loved zombie movies, like like the old school one. And Slayer is one of my favorite bands. So yeah,
That's cool. It's
Well,
got a story
I just
behind
kind
it
of
and
like
everything.
put it all together.
layers.
Yeah,
Yep. Thank you very much for joining us today. You're a great person, like as far as like mentor and like as far as athlete. Not only as an athlete, as a woman, also as a mother as well. Your story is really inspirational.
thank you. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for having me.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for listening again for Man Matters podcast. You can listen to us on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, iTunes. YouTube, and all of the places. Till next time, thank you very much.
Thank you.